And I think that leads to a couple questions from the audience that I can just answer or ask out for you guys. So one came in from Shannon Boone. So there's a lot of things for the product ops group to tackle. Where do you start and what categories of things fall into the product ops classification? Hugo, you want to jump in and give that one a go?
I'm going to use that that term that's been used 100 times by everyone. It depends. It's that simple, because what happens is each organization you join, you'll find something completely different, right? So some organizations are really good at strategy building, others are really good at user research, others are really good at connecting the dots and, you know, reducing silos. The thing is, you have to get context. So I would say the first step is getting context, getting to understand, you know, starting to identify. And that's one of the things that's funny. I just joined a new job, right? And one of the things I was doing was, as I was having these intro calls, I would just take notes in a Miro board and start throwing down these things I was noticing. And I was like, oh, I have to dig into this one. I have to understand that one. And you start painting this picture, and then you start seeing these patterns arising from there. And from there, you then have to look and say, okay, where can we go from here? And then you have to start looking at what you have to look at. I also think it's important to spotlight, and I get this from the book Switch. I don't know if anybody's read it, by Dan and Chip Heath. And it's great because the whole focus there is around doing changes, but focusing on spotlighting the good, right? So you find these really great points of things working really well, and you grab that and say, how can I scale that out? Because what happens is it's not our responsibility. You can almost pass that responsibility on to that person who's doing it well. And sometimes it's about doing that, right? And connecting people to people who are doing it well in the beginning, while you're still getting that context and everything. And then as we go, obviously you start identifying these things, and then you start making these changes. And I think it was like Chris was saying, you'd make these changes, and then you have to see what is the impact in the rest of the funnel, right? And the rest of the work and the rest of, before you can go on to the next thing. Because if you do it too soon, you know, it's going to become a mess. And so you have to see, hold on, did it affect it positively, negatively? And then so you go back and then you start building these out, and it's iterative. So we're basically working on an internal product, if you want to call it that, right?
Exactly.
It's continuously, iteratively.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I totally agree with you. It's a discovery, right? So you start with a discovery, what are the things that are good, what are the things that are burning, what are the things that need to be fixed. And then you have your product ops backlog in terms of understanding. You do user research with all functions. And then what is there, like every organization is different. I totally agree with you. Some organization like having, like, you know, they have program management function that's doing really well. We pass these things for them because they own it. You have a data analytics teams and they can go get it, just have them more plugged in. So product ops, like you, I think I heard this multiple times. I think it probably from both of you as well on, you know, being the product managers of running a product organization. So you find out what's working, what is not working, where we need to improve on, and then you continue to iterate on things and finding different results and measure it.
Any other classifications you'd throw in there, Chris?
No, I mean, I think that the user research is really important, and that is like a key component, I think, of this. I mean, what I'm trying to think about is like, how do we get user researchers more involved with actual internal research? Because I think there's like a lot of value in that. But I think, you know, the idea of contextualizing it with your own work is one where, you know, I mean, Jared Spool constantly talks about how people shouldn't make product decisions unless they spend at least 3 hours every 6 weeks with a customer. And so I'd argue that a product ops person, it probably is even more than that, right? Like you should be talking to product people. Like if you don't talk to a product person every day, you're probably not doing your job as a product ops person. So I think that is most important, and really understanding where there's pain, right, is the part that is good. I mean, I like what you're saying as far as like the idea of switch, right, where you're trying to highlight the things that are working. I think there's something interesting about like, do we go after the parts of pain where we're trying to fix that? But we also are now like amping up the things that are really great. I think that's like an interesting dichotomy that I haven't thought about as much. Yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, that's exactly a great point. Hold on, I was going to say something and I lost my train of thought. Forget about it, Chris. Go ahead.
No, but I agree with you. I mean, I think it is valuable, right? But, yeah.
I'll pivot to a couple other questions, and if it comes back to you, Hugo, jump in.